I wasn't thinking when I located this tiny house. I probably would have done it anyway, but the afternoon sun comes hammering through this screen and heats up the whole porch because we don't have the sun sets right up there where there's no big trees. So yeah, it's not good. So I'm gonna build these louvers in an attempt to make it more pleasant out here in the summertime afternoons.
So my original thought about building operable louvers for all these holes went away pretty quickly because it was going to be a monumental task that I wasn't up to. So we just decided to try to build some roll-up shades, some sunscreens.
So a couple of weeks ago, I tried to make a roll-up shade to keep the sun out of the porch, and I started with the long stretch, which is about a little under 10 feet, and it was an utter failure. When we cut this stuff, or when I cut this stuff, it automatically rolled up, which created havoc on trying to roll it up onto the pipe. And then I couldn't get it attached. Well, I didn't have what I needed to attach it to the pipe. And the string and the pulleys didn't match, so the string kept jumping off the pulley, so it was just a failure all the way around. So anyway, this is the fabric I cut for the 10-foot piece. I'm going to now use it for the 8-foot piece, roughly, so it won't go to waste. And I've popped a chalk line on the ground, on the concrete here and here, and sprayed it with some lacquer, clear lacquer, so it'll stay put. And then this white line is square with that, pretty much. I'm gonna try to pull it straight and get it, the top of it on the white line, and kind of see if I can't pull out these wrinkles. And I got something that I'm gonna try to attach to the fabric to keep the edge from rolling up when I cut it to the right width. So right now this is maybe 1.5 feet wider than I need, so I should be able to cut off this bad part. Okay, a little progress. I got it pulled straight. The top, this is the factory edge, and that's the factory edge, and they behave. So got the top factory edge on my white line, and I got the wrinkles pulled out, and the edge of this aluminum straight edge is where I need to cut the fabric. But if I cut it, it's going to roll up like this, so that's not going to work. So I'm going to put something on there to stiffen it before I cut it, and then do the same thing on this side. You see, I have this much to play with. The red line is right back here, so, but still kind of wrinkly. I'm going to country tomorrow. I think I'll just let it sit for a day or two and see if it won't flatten out a little better. It's been rolled up crooked for a couple of weeks. Okay, so it's been 3 days. I still got a wrinkle, but it's not terrible. So we're going to move forward. And this is what, okay, I don't know anything about this. I'm really not in my element here. But the trouble I'm having is when it's cut, it rolls up. So I bought this. This is nylon strapping. This is the lightest weight I could get. I think if I could sew it down both sides and then cut the fabric, I don't think it will roll this up. Now, in order to get this sewn, I got this stuff, which is tape. It's clear, double sticky tape. I'm gonna tape this down, and then I'm gonna bring it somewhere where somebody has a sewing machine, because I don't have one, and see if they'll sew it for me. So I have no idea if this is gonna work, but we're gonna give it a shot.
So now I'm rolling out the double stick tape. I'm trying to stay center of the tape an inch off of the aluminum straight edge, because the nylon strap is 2 inches, so I want the sticky to be in the middle where it won't impede with whoever's sewing. From the little bit I read, it can make the needle real sticky and keep the thread from doing what it's supposed to be doing through the sewing machine needle. But if that happens, you can clean it with alcohol. Anyway, I'm keeping it 1 inch off the surface, got it all the way, and then I went to peel the backing up, the paper part, so it'll be sticky on the front side, and I cannot get separate. So I started out, I thought I was peeling up the paper, but I was peeling up the paper and the sticky tape, and I finally just gave up on that end and went to the other end, and I was able to get it separated. And I didn't pull the protective paper all the way off. I just pulled a little bit at a time and stuck the nylon webbing onto the sticky tape and did it all the way along, and I thought we were doing pretty good at this point. Turned out that sticky tape's not quite strong enough, but anyway, it got me started, got me off dead center on this project that I don't know what I'm doing. Well, what's new?
I think it might work. I think it just might work. So I'm gonna fold it up. I'm gonna bring it to my friend's downtown and see if he can't sew it, and see if he can sew it with his machine. And if he can't, I guess I'll bring it to an upholstery shop. Pay whatever I gotta pay to get it sewn, because I can't do it. So this is a 1924 sewing machine that at some point somebody put a motor on. And this is the newer machine. It's 1927. And somebody put a motor on it.
Good as new.
This is my buddy Bradley, known him since the second grade. He's kind enough to do some sewing for me. He owns this store. Opened in 1920 what? 1924.
100 years old this year.
100 years old. So it started out primarily as a suit store, and then people kind of quit wearing suits, and now they do a ton of what do you call them? Uniforms for post office and bus drivers and guards and all kind of people.
And I did work for this guy over here.
What guy?
The guy with the tarp.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's sew this up. Okay, so I did the sticky. We did the first side. We had a lot of trouble because the sticky's not strong enough and it kept peeling off.
So you just pinned it.
I pinned it, yeah. So I went back home. By the time we finished, the second side was totally off and I didn't know where to put it. So I went back home and put it back on the floor, laid it back out, put some more sticky, put a straight pin every 8 inches or so to hold it in place, because when you push it through the machine, it kind of makes the fabric twist and it pulls it all off. So Bradley's gonna sew. So Bradley's gonna sew, and he makes it look easy. And he says he's never sewed his finger, but I don't know how, because he comes kind of close.
So Bradley is third generation owner of this store. It's called Bates and Thigpen. Thigpen's been out of the picture forever, and now his son works here, Brad Jr., who's my son David's age. And it's an old-timey store. Not a whole lot's changed, still service oriented. And he told me that they sell a lot of suits to people that fly into town. They lose their luggage. They're in a hotel downtown. There's a bunch of hotels downtown, and they have to have a suit like that day, that afternoon. And these my friends can do that. They have the suits, ties, shirts, and they can hem them right there on the spot. So they had a pretty good business like that. And sure enough, the second time I came in, or the third time I came in with another cloth to sew, there was a guy in there buying a suit because the airline has lost his luggage and he can't wait around for a few days. He has to have a suit. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Stickers on?
That's from him and Pam's.
So once again, I failed to film something I probably should have filmed, but I cut the excess off on the outside of my little strap, and all I did was I placed a straight edge here, took an old knife, heated it with the propane torch, got it pretty darn hot, and all I had to do was just barely drag it along the concrete. And then by the time I needed to move this ahead, I had to reheat the knife, but it cut scarily easy. There's not much to this fabric. So both sides are cut. This is the side that I used the glue strip and pinned in place about every 8 inches. So this is a little straighter. This is the first side we sewed, and the strip was coming unglued as we were sewing. We didn't have much choice. We finished it, but it's got like a little curve in it. I think Bradley did the best he could, but I don't think that's gonna matter. So now I'm gonna get my PVC pipe and cut it to length and screw the top. Well, it doesn't really matter which one's the top. One of these sides, this is a factory edge, so I can get it, should be able to get it pretty straight and attach it to the PVC pipe. That's what it's gonna roll up on that pipe. And the other side, I think I'll squeeze it between 2 little strips of wood, and I think that's going to make it much easier to hang when I get it to the country, instead of trying to straighten it and put lots of screws. If I have it between 2 boards, I can just put a handful of screws and be done. So that's the next step, but it's too early in the morning to use the miter saw and to cut the pipe. I don't want to wake my neighbors with my miter saw, so we just got to chill out for a little bit.
That's very gratifying. This is a factory edge and it should be straight. It's got holes in it from my failed attempt the first time, but it still should be straight. And this writing on this PVC pipe is in a straight line, I think. Pretty straight anyway. So I'm going to start screwing the fabric to the pipe. I've got these little bitty stainless steel self-drilling, self-tapping screws. Let's see what we can do. The first one will probably be the hardest. So I want to line this up. Yeah. Oh, and I've got my pipe cut to length. I'm going to line this up right here. Okay, that was a hard one because I was going through the strap. So I found that if you go backwards first, you actually melt this fabric. Ooh, this is going to be tricky. Okay, so it wants to pull if I get it too tight. So if I spin backwards first, I melt a hole in the fabric, and then when I drill it, it does less twisting, less damage. But it's going to be kind of tricky here. Probably should take something hot. Okay, that one worked good. Okay, now this fabric is 8 foot tall and my porch is 7 foot tall. So I'm going to rig up this shade so that there's always at least one wrap of material on the PVC pipe. So it should never be hanging from these screws. I'm going backwards, and I'm going forwards. It goes right in. As soon as it gets snug, I gotta stop. Okay, I'm getting better. I'm getting better at this.
What makes this a little more challenging is the stainless steel screws
right here
don't stick to the bit tip. They're not magnetic, so usually I touch them with my tongue, get them a little wet, and that helps.
Okay, I know you can't see much, but so right after I turned off the camera, I started, instead of trying to screw holes through the fabric, I got the propane torch and a punch, and I just burned melted a bunch of holes, and that went much smoother, especially on the thick part at the end. So it's time to roll it up and see what it'll do. See how neatly it will roll. That was one of the biggest problems with my failed attempt last time, is it did not roll right because the edges were all bunched up like this edge laying on the ground.
So this is the first one that I made, the first one I attached to the pipe, and it rolls the worst, and I don't quite know what's going on, why it's doing that, but it wants to go in a spiral a little bit. Not a deal breaker, but it's a little disappointing that it doesn't roll up completely straight, and I hadn't figured it out yet.
Well, not perfectly. It wants to roll kind of like a spiral. I wonder if my right angle is not quite a right angle. I don't know, or if that won't happen when I'm using the strings. But that'd definitely be a problem because my clearances between this shade and the other shade are kind of tight. So if it wants to roll up crooked like that, I'm gonna have a problem. So I grabbed a piece of redwood from the attic. Redwood's nice and light and really straight. It's 3 inches wide, so I'm gonna rip it in half, and I might even rip it a little thinner each one. And I'm gonna sandwich the, this will be the top. I'm gonna sandwich it, glue it, and nail it. And that way, when I get to the country, it'll be real easy to put up there, and I won't have to be fighting with the fabric squirming all over the place and everything. So yeah, we're gonna rip it in half, and maybe rip it a little thinner, and probably use construction sealant again twice in a week, which I have never used in my life. And probably some little gun nails just to hold it in place until the sealant sets. And then when it gets screwed into place, the screws will go through both sides once again. Anyway.
Now, if I had like a 10-foot by 12-foot work table, this whole operation would have been much more pleasant. But I don't have that, so we're on the floor doing the best we can. You'll see in a little bit when I go to hang them, the longer one on the end wall, I mount it to the inside of the wall because I have those little braces on the outside of the wall that hold up the overhang, which keeps some of the sun off the porch. And then on the 2 shorter ones that are on the long wall, I put them on the outside because we have those little round tables on the 4x4 posts, and we use those all day, every day. And we put our drinks on the framing. And so if I'd have put the shade on the inside, it would have really messed up the convenience of having that little table all the way around. So I put them on the outside. Now if it's I don't have anchors to anchor them down, so if it's a real windy day, it's probably going to be an issue. But typically in the summertime, when we're cooking in the porch, there's no wind, there's no breeze, so I don't think that'd be a problem. I can always add some kind of hold downs, but I think for the most part, when these things are being used, it's a still day, no wind. We'll just have to play that by ear when the time comes. And here, all I'm doing is I'm sliding the fabric back and forth to try to get just a little bit of an edge sticking out above the boards, just so I know it's straight. It's sliding on that gooey construction sealant without a problem. I don't want to slide it too much because I don't want the sealant to be all over the fabric, but yeah, actually this is worked out pretty well. It's a pretty easy way to do it.
That's done. I'm gonna leave it alone, let the caulk set. And actually I'm kind of done here with this. The next thing I need to do is get on the internet and find some better pulleys than I had last time, and some better cord to try to make the mechanical part work a little smoother. Alright, my next project has nothing to do with the roll-up shade, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway. This is a little marble base that we purchased. I'm setting it directly over the hole in my workbench. And this is a little cast that my wife made, and I need to mount it. So I'm putting it centered on this marble base, and I'm gonna get underneath with a pencil and draw a circle or mark it. And then I gotta turn it upside down and hold it some kind of way and drill a hole. Okay, the mark came out perfectly. I got it semi-secure in the vise. I really can't crank down on it that much. Well, I might crack it. And it's not quite level, but I'm gonna oversize the hole to allow for some epoxy, so I think it'll be all right. Usually, this stuff's pretty hard. I usually drill with the impact drill, but because this thing's kind of precarious, I'm gonna try to just drill it with drill bits, work my way up and just dull a bunch of bits. Okay, this is what we have. I have 3 dull drill bits, and I have a hole. And inside the hole, I have knead epoxy, unthickened epoxy, to make it stick better. I have a bolt that I cut the head off of, and then with a grinder, I ground some facets in it so that it would get a mechanical bond. And then I thickened up the epoxy so it won't drip out the hole. So now I'm gonna put the bolt through here. I'm gonna fill up the hole with thickened epoxy, and I'm gonna stick it on top of there. And then I'm gonna turn it back over, and I'm gonna center the bolt on this blob of clay and push the base down, and that should push the bolt all the way up snug inside the base. And I'll let it sit for a day, and when the epoxy cures, I can take it off and I can tighten up that bolt with a wrench a little bit. You don't want to tighten up too much when you're dealing with stone. And that'll be that. So I'm gonna put the camera down. I'm gonna fill up the hole, or not fill it, but put a whole lot of thickened epoxy in there and set the base on top. So that's that. The bolt is epoxied into the hole that I drilled in the bottom of the sculpture, and it goes through the base with a nut and a washer, and the nut and a washer is snugged up by the clay that I set it over. Then I was able to center up the sculpture pretty well, and now I'll just leave it alone. And tomorrow I'll just snug up that bolt, that nut a little bit on the bolt, and put some felt pads on the bottom. This one will be a done deal. And next day, pull the clay out from the bottom, and it looks like epoxy has run down around the washer and the nut, so no sense in even trying to tighten it. It's done. So the last one I made was this chalk line. This is the newer one. This is the one I messed up the first go round. It's 110 inches, and I didn't pop a chalk line just because I'm by myself and I didn't have anybody to hold the end, so I just spray painted it. Yeah, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna glue that nylon strap to it and pin it, and then go get my buddy to sew it. And yeah, I think it worked okay. I swept the floor, so I'm ready to roll out the fabric. Now it's been folded since I bought it, so it may have a big crease in the middle. I don't know. All right, once again, I got it stretched out. Try to get all the wrinkles out. It's kind of hard. I got my straight edge on top of where the white line is, but it's on top so I can see it. I'm gonna glue down this nylon strip and then put straight pins in it. Make sure it doesn't move. And I have a bunch of straight pins now because Bradley gave me a whole bunch of them. So, all right, and then I'll bring it to him. It's the first one we did, the only one we did, rolled up kind of crooked. I thought maybe I might have had my angles wrong here on the floor. So I did a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So I did 6, 8, and 10, and it comes out. I am off a little bit. This is where the end of the tape should have come. I'm off just a little bit. So that wasn't a problem because it was off like 3 inches on rolling it up. So I think just the fabric's wonky. Anyway, I got this back from Brad. It's all sewed up. I need to trim the edges and stick the top onto that PVC pipe.
So these video clips of me cutting off the ends of the fabric with the heat turned out to be not videos at all, but still pictures. So sorry about that.
So just burnt both edges off, and the nylon strap is doing its job, and its job was to keep the edge from curling up when I cut it to size. So awesome, that's doing well. And now I burnt holes across the top. It's going to make it easier to pop the screws in. And now we need to screw it to the pipe, and I'm using the printing on the pipe as a straight edge. I think it's in a pretty straight line from one end to the other. So I need to go find my little stainless steel screws and start screwing it on there. Okay, this is the widest one. It's 110 inches, and it is assembled. Got the wood strips on the top to screw it to the framing. My pipe on the bottom, and I got my nylon straps on both sides to keep it from raveling up. And yeah, we're gonna roll it up and put it in a safe place until the next time I go out there. Okay, last one. I got the procedure down now. Just cut the edges off with the hot knife. Line up, well, burn some holes in the top. Line the top up with the writing on the pipe. Screw it. Cut some boards. And line the top of the boards up with the hem, because theoretically this factory edge is parallel with that factory edge. And that's it. Bring it to the country and hang them. First roll-up shade is installed and it works quite well. I didn't film it because it was dark this morning and my cameras don't work well in the dark, but I'll film the second one so you can kind of see what I did. And yeah, it's 57 degrees this morning. I got on a jacket and a beanie, so I'm waiting for the sun to come in to warm the thing up. And now that I have shades, but maybe next summer I'll be ready for that sun. Okay, on this shade I don't have a good spot to put the pulleys. If I put one there and one there, they're so close to the middle, the overhang's going to be really far. And if I put one there and one there, the overhang's really short, but there's a long span in the middle. So I'm going to add a couple of 2x4s at 1/4 the total length. So it'd be a quarter of it hanging over the pulley, a quarter of it to the center point, a quarter of it to the next pulley, and a quarter hanging over. So yeah, but I don't have a power saw, so I gotta cut this with this little handsaw. But just 2 cuts. Okay, so step 1, I fastened the screw to put the dead end of the string. It's kind of centered on my block where I'm gonna put the pulley. And from there, it came straight all the way to the ground. And I used the little pulley just to help me keep the line straight. I go back up, and then I go over to wherever I'm gonna put the cleat, which is gonna be roughly here. And come down, I'm gonna cut it around about here. Don't cut it too short. And I'm gonna do the same thing in front of this block, over and down. I'll cut it, and then I'm ready to put the board up there and tack it into place. Well, screw it into place, but I'll show you.
So straight above where the cleat is going to go, I'll need my third pulley, and I got nothing to fasten it to, so I'm going to add a third 2x4 block right centered on my column here.
In my case, spacing side to side is kind of critical because I have both shades are going to end up here. So I can't stick out an inch. I don't want it to be short an inch. It's going to impede on the door. So I got it marked already up there. And I got a mark on the board. That should line up. And I got my screws started because I'm single-handed. So yeah, we're getting ready to put it up. Now my strings are hanging straight down. I undid all the temporary stuff. I'm going to put it up there. I'm going to put it as high as I can because I don't have a length problem. I got plenty of fabric, so I'm just going to shove it up to those rafter tails and screw the board into place. So now we're going to install the little pulleys with my homemade screw eyes. I got plastic pulleys because I didn't like the way the metal ones squeal, and also they're so sloppy that the string was getting caught up in that crack if you weren't like perfectly conscious of always keeping tension on the pulley. So not going to use that. We're going to use plastic pulleys and the homemade screw eyes. And okay, first pulley is hung, and while I had the ladder here, I went ahead and ran the string through it. You want to allow a little room here for the fabric to roll up. So kind of guessed at it, but I think it'll be all right. Let's get the second one. This is the Home Depot cord. I think it was rated at like 50 pounds, and I don't know whether that's breaking strength or working load. This is the new stuff I got. It's some kind of type 3 paracord, military specification. And it's rated at 550 pounds. Again, I don't know whether that's breaking strength or working load. But it's a whole lot stronger. So I'm going with the strong stuff and leave the Home Depot stuff for something else.
So this is the second test on this one. This is kind of like a feel-good test because I know it works, but I've pushed the glider back to where it's supposed to go. I want to make sure I had enough room for the shade, and I want to get the gliders tight back as I can, and it seems like I got a happy compromise. Now once in a while the right end of this pipe will touch on that beam that's straight above my head, and you just got to reach up and just push it over a quarter of an inch or so. I can live with that. Pretty happy with this first one.
Perfect.
Now on these two outside shades, I've got the cord tied off so you can't lower it any more than I got it tied off to, and that leaves one full wrap on the pipe. It does leave a little bit of crack at the bottom, but that's not a problem with sun because the sun's not going to come in that little crack. So there, this is it. This one's working well. The second one is the problem one. It doesn't always work well.
Perfect. Almost. But this one doesn't roll down right. And I don't know what in the world there is difference between any of them.
Now I did tie the two lines together kind of up high way above the cleat so that
Rolling down right.
they'll stay together, because I got them adjusted right, and I don't want somebody pulling on one cord or letting one cord slip, so they're tied together, so that can't happen.
Now that fall is here and the sun's not a problem, I got my shades done, but next summer they'll come in handy, because in the afternoon the sun sets right between to the left of that tall pine tree, and it comes right in here, and it's 98 degrees everywhere but on the porch, and it's 110 degrees on the porch, so they'll get used. Now what I don't know is with that string pulling that little groove, what's going to happen to that after a few months? I don't know that. And I don't know that the sun is not going to degrade this plastic even though it's up in the shade. The one inside is not going to get any ultraviolet, I don't think. But I think these might, I don't know, might have to put like a little covering for them. We'll see. Anyway, that's done. Thanks for watching. And thank you, Mr. Bates, for sewing these nylon straps for me, because I couldn't have used it without them. So, good deal.
And even though we're into fall, I still had to lower the shade to keep the sun off my glider so I could take a decent nap this afternoon. And it works. Life is good.